We are back to wine this week with Mike Ward, specifically Bonterra Winery, and we're lucky enough to have the brand's regional manager, Nancy Picucci, joining us as well. Welcome, both of you.
It's great to be here, talking about wine again.
Thankfully.
Really good wines.
And Nancy, we're so happy to have you with us.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
I want to jump right in with you. Organic Estates is part of the winery's name. It's on the label. What do you guys do differently?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. So much. I think that our origin is doing things differently. Our winery originally was founded in 1968 by Barney Fetzer under the Fetzer banner. And for years, we had guest chefs, celebrity chefs coming in and cooking at our vineyard, hosting all these events and parties. And they said, why is your produce so good? I can't get produce like this anywhere in the world. And Barney's answer was, well, we farm it organically. And thus Bonterra was born. We don't use anything synthetic. We don't use any chemicals. Everything is natural. And I think that when you treat the farm as a system and you put things that invigorate it and make it better on it, that aren't meant just to maximize its production, this vintage, it really makes a difference in what you taste in the glass.
You know, Nancy, it's not easy or cheap to do what you guys do. It's kind of shocking that you can keep prices affordable.
It is, actually. But when you do things the right way and you've done them the right way for a long time, it's just part of who you are. For example, one of the things that we do in the vineyard is we plant all these different cover crops. And those cover crops can actually act as herbicides and pesticides. Then that makes it so that we don't even have to pay for the chemicals to go onto the vineyard. And that's a cost savings.
Well, that's really smart. I know Bonterra is also recognized as the largest regenerative organic certified winery in the United States. Is this just about being sustainable and environmentally friendly, or does this actually make the wine better?
Oh, my opinion is that it really does make the wine better. But what's most important about it is every vintage, we leave the soil and the ecosystem around the vineyard better than it was the year before. Even doing that vintage after vintage means that winery has history and it'll be there for generations to come.
No. And how do you do that? I'm sorry, Heidi. How do you make it that way, the soil?
Oh, that's a great question. So one of the things that we do is by planting a minimum of 5 different cover crops, we are actually putting nitrogen and healthy things back into the soil. And when you have the biodiversity of a minimum of 5 different cover crops, it actually traps the carbon into the soil. It roots very deep. It allows all the microorganisms inside of the soil to develop and be very, very healthy. When you till it, you actually can sunburn the soil and you disrupt the microorganisms' habitat inside of the soil that creates the nutrients and also prevents the land from flooding because it has all these little organisms inside of it, making it a habitat. It can actually absorb the water when we get too much water. We also use sheep to do all of our row maintenance, so we don't mow, we use sheep. We use ducks and chickens to aerate and fertilize.
Wow.
And by putting all of this healthy nutrients that are just part of the ecosystem back into it, it's actually staying really healthy.
That is
and improving
cool.
each vintage.
Fascinating. What are some of the cover crops, and can you in turn use those?
Yes, so we can. So we have lavender. We use marigolds. There's different kinds of clover. It's really vast, and I apologize not being able to speak into that a ton more. We have to use a certain number of broadleaf ground cover versus like a small leaf ground cover. But all of those things also bring the pollinators in.
Wow.
And when you talk like this about the crops and everything, we're all very busy people. And when I make a peanut butter sandwich, sometimes I don't think about the fields of peanuts that helped bring that to my table. But the way you discuss the wine, I mean, farming is just as important as when the grapes go in to make the wine after they get picked. What would you say is the percentage of what makes a wine taste the way it does? What happens in the field or what happens in the winery?
Well, I think that's very subjective to the wine that you're discussing. But the way that we make wine, at least 80% of the wine is made in the vineyard. Not to discount anything our winemakers do; they're fabulous. But it's really the farming techniques that ensure that we get the right amount of sugar levels in the grapes, that we're picking at the right time. What we do in the vineyard dictates the health of the vine when we have bud break, how it withstands climate change, how it withstands different environmental factors like flooding and drought. And because of how we farm vintage after vintage, people can depend on Bonterra to be a good quality.
Yeah. So, Mike, let's bring you in here because Bonterra has several different varieties. We're talking about the Sauvignon Blanc, and the Chardonnay, and the Cabernet. Is there one that Bonterra is actually known for?
Well, I will defer to Nancy on that, but I will say that we kind of picked wines that are available that people can enjoy this weekend. And so Sauvignon Blanc, it's a perfect time of year for that, with the weather changing. The Cabernet is such a great food wine. And, it's got everything that our listeners would look for who enjoy Cabernet, goes with the foods that we enjoy, but it's also approachable, which I like about it. And then the Chardonnay, which is, I want to ask Nancy a little bit more about that to see the flavor profile, if it fits into that oaky, buttery Chardonnay. But also, I want to kind of have another discussion about the grapes, because I think that's what's so important about the wine. We have one opportunity every year to grow that fruit, grow those grape clusters, and pick those grapes. Just, it's starting now, and grapes are going to be harvested in September, October.
Can your well-trained palate tell if the grapes are organic?
Well, no. I don't think I'd be able to blind taste and tell if the grapes were organic, just to be honest.
But if it was good, you'd know.
But if we look at other factors of it, maybe the region, the grape, the price point, it would be really tough to tell, which I think is a good thing, because, there's a meaningful story behind organic viticulture. And, if you can just taste it and distinguish wines from each other, it wouldn't have as much meaning.
Nancy, are more and more wineries heading towards the organic grapes?
We are seeing an increase in organic farming practices. We're seeing an increase in regenerative organic farming practices, for that matter.
And what's the difference in the two?
Oh, that's a really good question. So organic, the basic description is that we don't use any synthetic fertilizers or any chemical pesticides and herbicides on the vineyard. But regenerative organic is next level, because it takes that into account. It also takes into account animal welfare and making sure that we pay a living wage and take care of our employees and our farmers. So it's not just the people like me out selling who work at a computer. It's also the farmers that are working in the fields every day.
And Nancy, to go back to the question that I kind of asked Mike, which of these wines put you guys on the map? Did people go, oh, Bonterra, I know their Chardonnay or their Cabernet. Which one do you feel like kind of makes you guys stand out?
I think the Chardonnay is what put us on the map, because Chardonnay was such a big varietal for so long. People drink Cab, people drink Chard, people drink Riesling, and there wasn't a ton of diversity in what people were doing at home. And I think today we see people branching out and trying new things, and I really see the Sauvignon Blanc surging in the market.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what leads to the Sauvy B kind of making its way to the top of the list, because now when I'm out, I'm seeing more and more people order it.
Oh, the trend, it's on fire. I think people are enjoying it. It's clean. It's clean. It's fresh. It pairs with almost everything, and it tastes great with or without food.
Yeah.
Some wines really require food for you to find its full beauty.
Mike, when you're going to go to some of these wines, is there one you lean to?
Well, I love your abbreviation for Sauvignon Blanc, by the way, and I'm a big fan, and I always have been. And I like what I like about it is it's got good acidity. So, like Nancy said, it's good food wine. It's a great summer wine, and also it has diversity of flavor. You know, you asked me if I can distinguish these wines in blind tasting, and I've taken a lot of exams with blind tasting, and it's a hard thing to do. It's also fun to do. But Sauvignon Blanc, you can tell the difference between California, France, and New Zealand pretty easily. It's always the grape I use to teach blind tasting. So I really, I'm a big fan of it.
Well, what's really nice about Bonterra, all of these I know that you've seen in your grocery store. I mean, Schnucks and Dierbergs, and I mean, Bonterra is carried almost everywhere.
Yeah, and it will be, you know, we've been talking about Dirt Cheap a lot.
Yes.
And we're working with them, and it will be on the shelf there. But, you know, all the listeners can try it this weekend. And I kind of wanted to add one other thing about organics, just as a comparison, because you know, you guys know I'm a big fan of our Missouri wines, and I work with the Missouri Wine and Grape Board. And I talked to a winemaker in Missouri about organics, and they said, you know, that would be really hard in our state.
Really?
We can do sustainable viticulture. We can limit the amount of pesticides or try to eliminate them altogether. But to be certified organic,
Darn near impossible.
It would be hard just in our environment with the way our seasons are, and you know, potential for diseases and things like that. But when you're growing grapes in California, that's what's so special about grape growing in California and wines like these. They have that option, and obviously they take it and do a great job with it.
Nancy, we have a question for you on our text line from a listener. So do you guys mulch up the waste, like the leaves and the vine clippings, and turn it back into the soil?
So we do actually do that to some degree. We absolutely just, when we drop grapes, when we do any pruning, we just drop it right there and let it naturally work its way back into the soil.
Wow.
We also do compost inside of the winery, the grape must. All of that is all composted, yes.
Wow. And whose idea was it for Bonterra to be organic? Was that the founder?
It really started with Barney Fetzer, and the gardener.
Yeah.
Who really believed in organic to begin with, and it was something they said, you're crazy, but they said he was crazy to farm sustainably in 1968, and it worked for him now. It works for him today.
Was that even a thing in 1968? I feel like we're just now talking more about organic and sustainability.
Yeah, so sustainability was kind of a trend. Like these B Corps, like Bonterra and Celestial Seasonings, they started that way, but people weren't talking about it. It wasn't really a thing. People thought it was a little woo-woo, quite frankly. And then,
those California
as we rolled
people.
into
Hippies. We hippies in the 60s, we did that. We got it going.
Yeah.
I love that. And we started organic farming our first vineyard organically in 1987. Our first vintage was 1989.
Wow.
That's great.
Well, it's a fascinating story and a great wine. Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today. Mike Ward, if people have a question for you, if they want to find out exactly where they can grab these wines, or maybe they're wondering what they should pair it with, they can get a hold of you how?
Yeah, please reach out to me if you want to know where to get them. They're great wines. Mike at wardonwine.com.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers.